The Manhattan grand jury is expected to reconvene this afternoon as we await any news on former President Trump and whether there will be an arrest. Trump telling reporters over the weekend, quote, "I think they've already dropped the case. It's a fake case. Some fake cases. They have absolutely nothing," says Donald Trump. Here's what Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz told me on Sunday Morning Futures yesterday. Watch.
They first targeted the individual. They both promised they would get Trump. Then they said, let's rummage through the statute books and see what we can find. And they rummaged, and they couldn't find anything. They couldn't find a statutory violation. So they made one up that was beyond the statute of limitations, that involved combining a misdemeanor that never occurred with a federal felony. This is one of the most dangerous precedents that any prosecutor has ever tried to establish in the United States.
Well, my next guest shares some of that. Writing this weekend, Alvin Bragg, should suspend his Trump pursuit. Joining me right now is former federal prosecutor. He is Fox News contributor, Andrew McCarthy. Andy, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks very much. Walk us through your thoughts. Maria. You think he should just drop this now. Tell me why.
Well, it's a terrible case. I mean, you know, at most it's a misdemeanor. I think he'd have, there's proof problems with the misdemeanor, as Alan Dershowitz mentions. But what's really outrageous about this is twofold. One, to get the felony, which is a 4-year potential count. And Maria, we have to assume he's going for the felony because that's the only reason you'd be in front of a grand jury. He could plead a misdemeanor himself. He needs the grand jury for a felony. But he has to rely on a federal statute, the campaign finance violation, and he doesn't have jurisdiction over it. Trump didn't commit a campaign finance violation, and the best interpretation of what happened here is that to the extent there was any financial finagling to cover up the payments that were made to Cohen, it was for the same reason that they entered into the non-disclosure arrangement in the first place, which was probably to avoid embarrassment for President Trump's wife and also to avoid a disclosure prior to the election. So you can think of it what you want to think of it, but it's not a crime.
Well, I mean, there's also a statute of limitations issue, right, Andy? I mean, there's that. People are so sick and tired of 2 tiers of justice. And, you and I have spoken about this in the past, but you see, like, the bank records that were exposed of the Biden family influence peddling. And then just a few days later, you see a potential indictment of Trump. I mean, is this like look over here, not over there? You've got Kentucky Congressman James Comer, the chairman of the oversight, yesterday saying that Bragg must testify now. Watch what he said. Listen to this.
Unfortunately for Mr. Bragg, he doesn't have the luxury of determining whether or not he can comply with congressional requests because he crossed over 2 levels of government from the local level to the federal level to try to prosecute something that clearly, if there was a reason for prosecution, it should be done by the Department of Justice on the federal level.
So now Comer wants Bragg's testimony. He said that on CNN yesterday, Andy.
Yeah, well, I don't think that Bragg should bring this case, but I don't think Comer's got any business subpoenaing a district attorney from a state. The Congress has no oversight authority over a state official, and I think we'd probably find it pretty offensive if the shoe were on the other foot.
So where do you think this comes from? I mean, do you think this is just Bragg doing what Bragg wants to do, or is there any evidence that he's been directed or by any others on the federal level? I mean, you just said it. The DOJ passed on this case.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think, Maria, that we would be better looking at Bragg rather than looking at him as a law enforcement official, as looking at him as an elected progressive Democrat. Unlike what happens in the federal system where prosecutors are appointed and they're vetted by the Senate to make sure they won't use their power as a partisan weapon, in the state system and with district attorneys, these are elected positions. And this is a guy who ran on getting Trump. So he's appealing to his own political constituency. I don't think we should assume he's necessarily in lockstep with other Democrats. I imagine most Democrats would rather proceed with a different case against former President Trump.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know that Tish James also said, we're going to get Trump. I mean, that's what Alan Dershowitz said. That's where he got the name of his book. Lee Carter's with me this morning, Andy. Lee, jump in.
So about 2/3 of Americans think this is completely politically motivated, but about 2/3 Americans also believe that it may be true. One of the big questions I have right now, and I'm looking at the numbers, is this situation actually giving energy to Donald Trump rather than detracting from him? I feel like there's more enthusiasm, more support, more people saying they're tired of the politicization of institutions as a result of this. What do you say to that?
Yeah, and let me just add before you answer,
Lee,
Andy, this weekend,
sure.
when Trump was in Waco, Texas, and he did a rally, what do you think one of his main campaign messages was? A weaponization of government.
Yeah.
So there you go. He's using it as a campaign message, Andy.
Yeah, and I think as long as these cases are as empty as Bragg's case, then that is going to feed enthusiasm for that argument on Trump's behalf. The problem for him will become if the cases get more serious and the prosecutors can lay out in detail what the basis for their allegations are so that people can make a judgment for themselves whether this is a political prosecution or one that's based on evidence. I don't think we should be surprised that most people think both that this case shouldn't be brought and that the conduct is bad. There's a lot of things that are icky that are not illegal.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, but what about the other things happening on the other side? You've got the FBI sitting on the Hunter Biden laptop since 2019. You've got these bank records exposed that show, Biden family partners receiving money from communist China and then distributing it to Biden family members. And then there's Karine Jean-Pierre saying it's all lies, and it's probably more lies. I'm not even going to answer it.
Yeah, well, Maria, this goes to what you were talking about a moment ago, which is the two-tiered justice system.
Yeah.
You have this situation with Bragg where the statute of limitations on the misdemeanor was 2 years. He's struggling to get a felony to get into a 5-year statute of limitations, which he's probably time barred on anyway. And on the other side of the coin, you have this investigation of Hunter Biden, which apparently was open like 2018, 2019, and people are scratching their heads saying, what are they waiting for? I mean, some of the cases that they've had, some of the evidence involving Hunter Biden, for example, the false statement that he made on the gun application, that case could have been brought in a week. And we're now waiting, what is it now, 4 or 5 years?
That's right. Well, it's the president's son, after all. Andy, thanks very much. Great to have you on this program. We hope you'll come back soon.
Thanks, Maria.